afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining
Hey,
us.
hello.
Hi. Hello, everybody. KattPhlox with here with my partner in crime, Puzzle Pulsar. We are going to be trying to cover as many as 2 space flights today. First,
Yes.
we'll be heading over to Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Station in Florida, where they will launch Starlink 4.3, which will be carrying 48 satellites and a couple of ride shares up to orbit. And hopefully, I'm not certain about this yet because Ariane Space's website and Ariane Space's YouTube channels are saying two completely different things. Um, they're going to be launching a Soyuz that's carrying up 2 Galileo satellites. Galileo is a navigation satellite similar to America's GPS and Russia's GLONASS satellite system, which is used for navigation of for both civilian and military purposes. So, how are you doing today? You ready for the
I'm doing
ready?
great. Just got off of work not too long ago, but I'm excited at least for the SpaceX launch. But yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know if their website is or if their website saying something totally different. I don't know if I put the chances of it going off at really high.
Well, anyway, I still
So,
have
but
the
we will see.
YouTube. I have the Ariane Space YouTube feed up and ready to go. Just looking at it in a browser. So I'm gonna keep eyes on that throughout the course of the program. So we shall see. SpaceX hasn't started just yet. They should be starting anytime now. Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I am going to go check on, and even if we don't start, even if it turns out neither are going to be up today, we still have plenty to talk about.
Oh yes, the newest. Should we talk about the latest news out
Oh
there?
yes, oh yes. Excuse me. Rocket Lab just announced the latest progress in their development of Neutron, and it's basically when I saw it after you told, I saw it go up, and you actually saw it earlier this morning. I
Yes.
watched it shortly after you told me about it. Gave me the URL. I looked at it, and best thing I can describe that is shots fired at SpaceX.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I
I
kid
was
you
like,
not. Basically, this is probably one of the craziest ideas in the world. Basically, they're going for not just reusability, but reusability from the start. The only thing they're not reusing right now, just like SpaceX, is the second stage. And they are taking it really far. And they're taking it really far on that one. For one, they're not going to work on those silly landing legs because we've sometimes seen that fail. I think that happened on the first heavy launch where it collapsed. There goes the SpaceX feed. We'll talk more in a minute. We may talk after the. We'll probably talk more after the launch.
mm-hmm.
Let me see. I'm going to head to program A here. There we go. We got the SpaceX launch and program starting. Let's see. So basically,
Yep, here
what's
we
going
go.
on right now? What's going on is that they have the landing legs already in the position, so all they have to do is just touch it down, and then they use, instead of the grid fins, they use canards at the other end of the vehicle in order to steer it down into the atmosphere. Once the atmosphere has authority, gives them authority. And the other thing that they're talking about is when they talk about the fairings, why worry about fishing them out of the water if you never detach them in the first place?
Brilliant. Now I'm
And even
wondering
more
if
fun,
that's. Oh, go on.
go ahead, continue though. You were going to say?
It's a great idea, but I'm wondering how much weight, like the hydraulic mechanism's going to need. I On one hand, I'm like, yes, hell yes, let's just keep the fairings on the dang spaceship and just have it, deploy. But at the same time, it looked like it was like a flower petal and how it opened up with like four. I'm just like, there are so many. There's a gotta be way more points of failure than exploding bolts. Maybe they'll have exploding bolts on it that they can just alternatively go to, and screw
Mm-hmm.
or just you know damned with the fairings paths, but I don't know. To me it seems like you're making more points of failure, but at the same time if they
Yeah,
can
that's
make it
true.
work and it
Yeah.
can be lightweight, then yeah, go for it.
And
I'm oh, go on.
speaking of lightweight, that's the other thing. They're going to be just like Electron. It's going to be everything's going to be made of carbon fiber composites. Um, what's going to happen is that they're going to and apparently they found a process whereby instead of what they were talking about millimeters per minute. Hello, how you doing? Instead of millimeters per minute that they were talking about, they're talking or millimeters per hour, but meters per hour, which is insane because apparently preparation of a carbon fiber composite panel is no easy task. It is not what you would call a trivial procedure.
Ye. Um, the one thing I'm also curious about is what they're gonna do as far as like crush, because the way that Falcon 9 lands right now is they deploy the legs, and it lands at such a velocity that it's got the crush core on it, and so
Right.
are they going to be able to smooth down the throttle just enough to where they can just land it easily, or are they going to have to replace the legs every time? That's something to definitely think about in the you know
Yeah, that certainly bears thinking about.
but it truly
Because that mhm.
from the brochure at least, um it looks definitely like a rocket for 50 in the year 2020 or in the year 2025. Definitely, I would say.
Yeah, that's what they were saying on the on the what Peter Beck was saying in the broadcast this that went up this morning. So in the meantime, coming up on the first event on their timeline, which is at T minus 7 minutes, they're going to go for engine chill, where what they do is they flow liquid oxygen through all the turbo pumps on all 9 Merlin 1D engines at the base of the first stage. And yes, Neutron is definitely amazing. It's gonna be crazy. And the Archimedes engine they're talking about, it's certainly they're using the gas expander cycle, which apparently is just good old fashioned open cycle that I can tell. And it's going to be running on liquid methane, so making it
Now
only the third.
that doesn't use an electric pump like you said. That's an open throttle system too, right?
Yes, they're going to
Or
be doing a standard. They have a pre-burner that spins a turbo pump, which pumps the fuel and oxidizer. There's the deck of a shortfall of gravitas, which is their newest drone ship.
yes. Short ball of gravitas. Yeah, that is the newest one, huh?
Yes, it is. There's and this one is a flight proven booster because you can see all the soot staining on the side of the
Yep.
fuselage.
Flight proven. Yee.
A rather rather euphemistic way of saying used, but on the other hand, one person has already said they've already at least on some of these I mean, I'm not sure if it's we're talking about the exact same program with the number of uses overall, well exceeding what the entire space shuttle had.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. These boosters, man.
Indeed. And they have apparently what they're saying is that this is a new pair of fairing halves. Quite frequently, they will actually reuse the fairing halves. Um, and of course, they're talking about the propellant that they're using, which is a bipropellant of RP1, which is a highly refined form of kerosene and liquid oxygen, and they are reacted. Believe it's going to be fuel rich, where
Mm-hmm.
they have more fuel going into the combustion chamber, going toward the combustion chamber than they have oxidizer, mainly so they can cool the combustion chamber down, which is why you see all that soot coming off right near the very top, and of course from the MVAC when they light that up.
Yeah.
What I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to go take a look at Okay, now they've actually rescheduled the feed for Ariane Space's launch of the Soyuz STB. So we're only going to be covering just the Falcon 9 today.
Okay.
Here- We're coming up on the T-minus 7 minute mark, and we can also talk a little bit about various developments throughout the course of the show. Because there are still other things going on, including they have to coast for a bit. They may or may not do extra burns. We'll see what they're doing, especially with the ride share. They're going to have at least one. I assume they're going to have at least one additional burn. Woof woof woof.
I do apologize. That would be Space Dogbo.
Okay, we're coming up on T-minus 7 minutes, at which point they're going to start engine chill.
Okay. Hold on a sec. I know it's. I'm gonna go remedy this problem real quick.
Sure.
Remedy the problem. Ugh. All right, we are 6 minutes from launch.
They haven't called the MVAC chill. I mean, excuse me, the engine chill for the Merlin 1Ds over the loop yet.
So this today is a Starlink and BlackSky rideshare. So for people who don't know, Starlink is SpaceX's communicate or internet satellite internet solution. Hey, Coyote Killer, what's up? Go on.
Hey, tell him, hey, Coyote, how's it going, man?
But
yeah, we're coming up on. We're about coming up. I think it's 4 minutes 30 seconds. They'll do the strong back retract, where they will unclamp the clamp that's just below the fairing, and then they'll angle back that structure, the transporter erector structure, which is the strong back, about 2 degrees, and then when they light the engines off and let it go, it'll angle it back an additional 43 degrees. So basically, what happens is that they're basically pulling it away just so they can actually get the vehicle to stand on its basically put its own weight on the pad. So basically, and of course the one thing we've got some plans in motion for December 22nd, which will be hopefully the launch of the James Webb Space Telescope aboard an Ariane 5 rocket.
Mm-hmm.
And watch that clip. Watch that clamp. It's going to start opening up just after the T-minus 4 minutes 4 minutes 30-second mark, which just passed. There they go. There goes the clamp. And we're Puzzle and I were talking a little bit about before the show about what we could do. We're not at liberty to say anything just yet, but we're going to try something really special on the 22nd. And also before too terribly long, there's going to be another crewed Soyuz launch, but this is going to be different. This is going to be their first not just space tourism launch, but purely space tourism launch. There will be only one cosmonaut aboard this vehicle. That one, he will have full control of the entire vehicle instead of having commander and a pilot. He's going to be commander and pilot. And the other two will be 2 Japanese tourists who are going up to the station.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll have more before too long. So keep an eye on my Twitter. And in fact, let me go ahead and give you, for anybody who's on my side of things, here are my socials.
Yeah. Also, can we get a Mashichu? Can we get a collab shout out for KattPhlox as well? And Coyote Killer has a a comment here. He says James Webb has me so scared. And
Oh yeah,
yeah,
so
real
much is
quick
riding on that
before
launch.
we launch, but yeah, so much is riding on that launch, and I feel like that launch is just like a very expensive glass egg being launched into space. That if anything cracks on it, the mission is screwed. Or that, or we get very low res pictures from it, which is no bueno because there ain't no shuttle to send to go up there and send astronauts out to fix it. You can't clamp to that satellite.
Well,
So
the other thing I was just thinking about, especially with the advent of Starship and its ability to take large objects up into space, they might be able to do something like that. Also, we're coming up on T-2 minutes, and at the T-1 minute, they're getting close to finishing loading all propellants. And at one point, you may see a lot of clouds come off the tower. That's them venting the propellant lines as they're clearing them out in preparation for launch. And then at the T-1 minute mark will be startup, where the computers inside Falcon 9 will take full control over the vehicle's critical functions and the remainder of the countdown, all the way up until liftoff. And if anything goes wrong during that time, the computer will immediately scrub the launch. We're inside 90 seconds. There goes there go all the venting of the
ooh,
propellants. And if this is a crude vehicle, if this were a crude vehicle, they'd actually say, "Be prepared to hear loud venting."
yep.
Here we go, coming up on T-1 minute. T-1 minute,
All right, Falcon 9 is in startup.
and at T-40 seconds, they'll call one final call ready, one final readiness call.
Geez, for that computer to just get started and like boot up like in a minute's time, going through all of those functions and making sure everything's good. That's crazy.
Okay, there is they T-30 seconds. Vehicle they're at full readiness. Both vehicle and payload are ready for launch. 20 seconds. 15 seconds. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3,
Three,
2,
two,
1,
one.
0. Ignition
Ignition.
and liftoff of Falcon 9 carrying the Starlink 4-3 mission along with a ride share, and the vehicle has cleared the tower, and it should be pitching down range right now to place it over water in the event of an abort scenario, as well as to reduce the stresses as it goes to the denser portions of the atmosphere when it builds up to max Q. At about the T+55 second mark, they will be throttling all nine Merlin 1D engines down into the bucket, reducing the vehicle stresses as it climbs through the denser portions of the atmosphere, culminating in maximum aerodynamic pressure, or max Q. And shortly before that, they will go past Mach 1. Maybe with the Soyuz, that's because there will be they're gaining nominal telemetry. And coming up on, they're about to go Mach 1.
Mm-hmm.
They just called supersonic. They just passed the sound barrier, and they're preparing now for max Q. They just called max Q. They're now in the densest areas of the atmosphere during the ascent, and it's now going through all the aerodynamic stresses. And shortly after that, they'll pull the throttles all the way back up. And shortly after that, at about the 2 minutes 30 second mark, they will extinguish all nine Merlin 1D engines, throttling down to that point. And shortly after that, they will separate the first and second stages and ignite the Merlin 1D vacuum optimized engine, and the trajectory will start to flatten in order to place itself in orbit.
will then ignite and continue to propel those Starlink satellites and BlackSky.
Everything's looking nominal. And shortly before Miko, if you notice the flames will start to go out, and it's going to be very you'll see a little bit of a filtered haze on there. That haze is the soot that coats the side of the vehicle. But as for Arianespace's Soyuz launch, okay, here we go. Coming up on Miko, we have Miko.
Stage separation confirmed.
Here we go. Stage
Stage
separation.
separation.
Sorry.
And there's ignition of the MVAC engine.
So you can see on screen we have successful main
and we have there on the left. You see the views from the first stage and views from the second stage on the right. The grid twins are deploying so then they can have steering authority once they enter the atmosphere.
I think we're getting some views of twilight right now as the sun
We're about to cross the Kármán line, which is 100 kilometers, which is the border to space. Shortly before or shortly after that crossing, they're going to jettison the fairings for later pickup. There's the interior of the fairings. And there they go. We have fairing separation, and the entire payload is now exposed to space. Shortly after that, the first stage went up into past the Kármán line. It should reach an apogee of about 120 kilometers, at which point it'll start to, on the left-hand side, the speed will then start to speed up as it starts to go down.
Gas coming out. That is nitrogen for our as part of our attitude control system to help orient.
Yeah, those are cold gas nitrogen thrusters. What they're doing is they're adjusting the vehicle's attitude as it coasts up past the Kármán line and then starts to fall.
Right-hand side is a view of.
In fact, it's starting to slow down quite a bit now.
The 48 Starlink satellites and the 2 BlackSky satellites that we had mentioned earlier.
That was interesting. Did you notice that piece? Well, probably was nothing, but did you notice that piece of debris that was like floating in front of the first stage?
As they continue to make
It usually happens anyways. I was like, wait, what? Caught my eye for a moment.
Looks like it's about to hit apogee. Looks like it's going to be at about 120 kilometers. No, it's probably going to be. Yep, it's just hit apogee. It's now starting to fall. So 119 kilometers was its apogee.
To the drone ship, the first stage needs to execute 2 burns. The first is an entry burn where 3 of the Merlin
on orbital reef. I'll mention that in just a sec right now. Meanwhile, the vehicle is still coasting and starting to fall. I'd have to go check that out. Orbital reef, I'm not 100% certain about that. I'd have to go check it out.
Trajectory nominal.
That first burn, the entry burn, is expected to start around T plus 6 minutes.
Yeah, it was probably either the gasket from the second stage or something else that's supposed to pop off.
Yeah, that's ultimately going to fall into the atmosphere anyway because we're not fast enough to be at orbital velocity just yet.
Yeah.
We are in the middle of SpaceX's 27th mission of 2021.
And meanwhile, when they hit entry, when they get ready to do the entry burn, they're going to start the center engine, number 9, followed by 2 more that flank it, numbers 1 and 5. And that will slow the vehicle down from about, I'd say a speed of about 8,000 to 8,500 kilometers an hour to right around 4,500 to 5,500 kilometers an hour. And it will fall an additional 90, it will burn for about 30 seconds, at which point it'll be extinguished, fall an additional 90 seconds, at which point they will light just the center engine to bring it down onto the drone ship, a short fall of gravitas.
First stage, we do have camera views right now. It is a little dark, but as soon as that entry burn starts, we should see that first stage being lit up as it'll slow itself down before hitting the denser parts of the Earth's atmosphere.
We're coming up on the ignition of the center engine, the center, and then numbers 1 and 9. There goes the center engine, and followed shortly thereafter by numbers 1 and 9 to slow the engine, to slow the vehicle down. It had a peak velocity of about 8,000 kilometers an hour, and it is going to burn, like I said, for about 30 seconds.
You can see that we're starting to reduce that velocity.
Entry burn has shut down. It's going to speed up just a little bit. It has a peak speed in the atmosphere of 6,000 kilometers, 6,006 kilometers an hour. Now it's starting to slow down. And now it's really starting to slow down precipitously.
Trajectory nominal.
You have to gain another just under 10,000 kilometers an hour before it goes into orbital velocity.
The MVAC engine performance.
Coming up
Mhm.
before too long, we should be starting to get some views from the first stage as well as the deck of a short fall of gravitas to watch the vehicle land.
Seconds after we complete
Where it's the
Fingers
first stage
crossed.
touchdown. Yes.
Fingers crossed
We
that we
did.
get good footage from it, but you know, track
Yeah.
record on SpaceX.
We're about to go transonic, which is going below the speed of sound.
Reigniting this engine
They just called transonic.
50 minutes from now.
Come on, let's get some footage. Let's get some imagery. Because the last couple of them have been sort of spotty. One I caught
Yep.
earlier this year was beautiful. We saw everything from start to finish. There's the, they just ignited the landing burn.
Tunnel guidance.
There's the deck of the short fall of gravitas.
See if we can land this first stage booster
Here it
for
comes.
the 9th time.
Oh, oh,
Are we going to get the imagery?
yo,
There it is.
yo, let's
Touchdown.
go,
Yeah.
let's go. They nailed it. They nailed it.
Yes.
They nailed it.
And coming up
Little
shortly is Pico
pixelated.
1 on the second stage. Yes.
Let's go.
This first stage booster has landed 9 times. This marks our
Wow.
Wow.
9 times.
And coming up on Seco 1.
and the 129th success
And we have Seco 1.
of a Falcon 9 first stage. So what we're waiting on now is confirmation of second engine cutoff as well
Nominal
as
orbit insertion.
confirmation of a good
And now they just called a nominal orbital insertion.
Noise.
The second stage with all of its satellites are entering a coast phase for about 50 minutes.
Everyone knows real space stuff happens at 144 resolution.
Yep.
Oh, jeez.
So meanwhile, they're going to coast for about 50 minutes. There's the payload of 48 Starlink satellites, as well as the other. I wonder if they're going to actually do multiple. They're going to do multiple deployments. Probably they're going to. Yeah.
Yep. They'll probably deploy the Starlinks at a certain orbit, and then the next ones. But yeah, dang, that was, of course, very nominal for SpaceX. They've had a lot of practice with this.
Yes.
Should we go back to talking a little bit more about because I don't know if some of my audience members were there for it, but talking a bit more about the news from
Yeah, let's do that.
Rocket Labs. So earlier, guys, we were talking about Rocket Labs. I keep wanting to say Proton, but it's Neutron, and like some of its capabilities. They just this morning premiered like a whole video about it where Peter Beck, brought up all the amazing stuff that they're planning to do with this thing. Like, he didn't say it, but it definitely looks like this is gonna be a constellation builder, like of a rocket,
Not to mention, 2 words I can best describe that, as we mentioned earlier. Shots fired.
Oh gosh, shots fired at Hawthorne. There were shots fired at SpaceX Hawthorne. Oh my gosh. Like, they just were... They like, Peter Beck, when they were doing the material tests, the first thing they did, let's try out stainless steel. And they took a pillar and they just, like, clanged it at the material, and it just dented to all heck. And he's like, that's a shame. Goes to aluminum, also dense. He's like, let's try our very own carbon composite. And he just throws the hammer at it. Oh my god.
No.
I know why he did that. I just realized why he did that. You know why, Kat?
No, do tell him.
Tell me what you go. Let's go back to Cybertruck when they were first announcing that. What
Oh, yeah?
did Elon do to the Cybertruck? What did he try? What did he do to it?
Unfortunately, I don't remember all that.
Okay, so when he premiered the Tesla Cybertruck and whatnot, he took a baseball and he threw it at the window, saying that it wouldn't break.
Yeah.
I
Yes,
think
it actually did break.
yeah, and it did break. I think that's what he was trying to. That's what Peter Beck. Oh no!
Oh. Again, shot fired.
I'm dying. Oh my god, that cheeky SOB. I want to be like, yo, was that a shot at. I want to be like, I want to go on Twitter now and be
Actually,
like,
it was a diss
hey,
on,
yo, was this
it was
a
a diss on SpaceX in general?
I know it was
well, maybe even Elon Musk in general.
Definitely, that was personal though. No, that was straight up personal. Oh God, I need to ask. I want to ask him that question now and be like, oh my gosh, because I'm sure that was a. He's not gonna say it publicly, but that was a shot fired.
Yep. And what I think we should probably do, I'm gonna actually roll the I'm gonna roll Peter Beck's video.
Are you gonna do it on the relay while we're waiting? Okay, cool. Yeah, I was just making sure.
That way we can all watch it.
Yeah, we can all watch it. Yeah, let's all watch this together.
Here we go.
Woo! I ate my hat. I love that. I love when he ate his hat. It was the best thing ever.
It's called Neutron. Luckily for me, there are no hats on the menu today, but what I will be dishing you out is full details on the Neutron launch vehicle. We've been busy, so let me show you a new breed of rocket, where reliability, reusability, and cost is hard-baked into the design from day one. This is not a conventional rocket. This is what a rocket should look like in 2050, but we're building it today.
Keywords should look like, but we're doing it today.
Start designing a new rocket. Well, ironically, you don't start at the rocket. You start at the satellite and all the spacecraft that you need to launch, and then you start the design process around
because you need to know how much force to put into it.
Of all of the satellites that are going to be built in the next decade are going to be small satellites in constellations. And these constellations form a critical part of the infrastructure around the planet to guide, monitor, and enable Earth's future. Constellations require very unique deployment needs, and up until now, there hasn't really been a vehicle that's optimized to do that. But of course, Neutron's not just great for constellations. It's great for geostationary deployments, human spaceflight, and of course, my personal favorite, interplanetary. Now, as we went through the design process, it became very, very clear that this rocket was going to dispense with all convention. So what does a rocket of 2050 look like? Well, let's start off with the absolute basics. This is a reusable launch vehicle, so that means it's got to land. So you don't want any deployable landing legs. You want a nice, big, wide, static base. Next is the upper stage.
That way it can touch down.
Is actually really, really tricky because it has competing requirements.
And we've seen the legs collapse.
The most high-performing structure as part of the launch vehicle, but it also has to be the lowest cost because for Neutron, at least at this point in time, it's a disposable upper stage. So when you think about making super light structures and super high performance structures, you need to really put them in tension. So Neutron's upper stage is actually hung from the payload separation plane, which makes it incredibly strong. And it also makes it the lightest upper stage ever in history.
That'll be interesting.
We add tanks to stage one and then connect it all together. Now, electrons taught us a lot about reusability, and reusability and re-entry is not actually a structural problem, it's a thermal problem. So the best way to manage a thermal load is to just not have it. And if you look at Neutron behind me here, what you can see is a continually decreasing shape and size of the vehicle, starting large at the base to smaller at the top. And that's actually really important because what that does is it decreases the pressure along the vehicle. So as we're re-entering the atmosphere, that decrease in pressure ensures that we don't have any shock waves attaching to it. So this is Neutron. It is an absolute beast. It stands 40 meters tall.
Gosh,
It has a
what
7
an
meter
absolute
diameter
unit.
base and a 5
Wait.
meter class fairing.
40
As
units,
you
that's
can
about
see, we
130
can lift
feet
8
tall.
tons in a fully
Mhm.
reusable mode, returning back to the launch site, or 15 tons is its maximum payload capacity to low Earth orbit. And the vehicle itself weighs 480 tons. So if you stood in front of a rocket in 2050, you wouldn't expect it to be made of normal materials.
Nope.
Here we go.
Here's what we were talking about
Weight
earlier.
Yes,
absolutely
materials.
nothing
Oh
on
boy, I
this
love this
planet.
part.
What we set up here is a little bit of an experiment. We have roughly 1 square meter of material here, and we've allocated 3.5 kgs per square meter of the rocket. Now, stainless steel is quite a popular choice.
This scared me. I was like, Peter, are you okay? I mean, that was really close.
Nope.
That's not very good either. Okay then, let's try something new. Let's try carbon composite, but not any kind of carbon composite, a Rocket Lab carbon composite.
Literally, the test stands the thing that buckles backwards.
Yep.
Now that's what I call a 2050 material. Sometimes carbon composites get a bit of a tough rap because they're expensive to manufacture and slow. Not the case. We're going to do this fast. We're going to use automated fiber placement. 3D printing really changed the game when it came to rapid manufacture. At least it did in 2013 when we used it to build the first 3D printed rocket engines on Electron. With metallic 3D printing, you measure the speed in millimeters per minute. With automated fiber placement, you measure the speed in meters per minute.
Wow. Meters per minute. That's
They've already
crazy.
shown
Yep.
with Electron that carbon composites are an ideal material for an orbital rocket. Now, thanks to Neutron, it's going to really come into its own as a rocket material of the future. Now, as much as I do love the sleek
Oh, yeah.
look of carbon, it's about far
It's
more
so
than looks.
sleek.
A huge reduction in weight is a game changer. If you can take the mass out of the rocket, you take the pain out of propulsion, and quite literally, the heavy lifting. So let me introduce you to Rocket Lab's newest engine, Archimedes. Now, because we don't have to lift a great big hulking metal rocket into orbit, that means the engines can be far less stressed. We don't need to push the engines to their absolute maximum. Archimedes is a 1 meganewton thrust engine. With over 320 seconds of ISP, its propellants are liquid oxygen and methane, and the cycle is also very simple. It's a gas generator cycle. These are all the things you want when you have to build an engine that can be reused over and over again. There is no point in having an engine that is absolutely busting its bolts at 11,000 psi. What we need for a reusable launch vehicle is an engine that can run over and over again at very low stress and very high margins. That's what's important. Seven Archimedes engines propel the first stage.
This next part is going to be crazy.
Yeah, what they want to do with this thing, I'm just like, whoa.
Since reusability is at the heart of the Neutron design, we asked ourselves, how could we reuse as much as possible to really drive down those costs and time to get it onto the pad and launch again and again? The answer is not throwing away the fairings or even trying to catch them. The best way is to never get rid of them in the first place. Next, we have to control the rocket during re-entry. So that's right, Neutron does not land on a barge. It is a return to launch site vehicle. So to guide the rocket back, we use the shape to our advantage, just like Electron. We use the atmosphere to do as much work as possible. Small control surfaces called canards at the front make small changes in the trajectory needed to get the accuracy and guide the stage back to the launch site where we started. So what lands back on Earth is a complete first stage, fairings and all. And all we need to do is open those fairings back up, load in a second stage and a payload, close the fairings, and go again.
Wow.
So what does a 2050 rocket look like? Well, it should be designed to be reusable.
Yes,
from
it
day
is.
one.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
It should also have
Okay, I
materials
just got an
that
epiphany of how they'd probably do the whole,
forces of
you know,
re-entry and are cost-effective
open
and
thingy.
easy to manufacture.
But I'll
It
just
should
say it
also have
after this.
engines that are able to be used
Okay.
over and over again, and engines that aren't stressed to their absolute limit. It's really important also to be able to return the vehicle to a launch site, not costly barges way out in the middle of the ocean. And then finally, it's also important not to throw away fairings, but just have a vehicle that you can load upper stages and payloads in and fly again and again and again. And it launches from a pad without all that bulky and costly infrastructure. We did something extraordinary with our first rocket, Electron, and we're doing something even more extraordinary with Neutron. The team is flat out right now at full force developing it. Prototype tanks are under manufacture as we speak, and Archimedes will breathe its first fire next year. Because at Rocket Lab, when we say we're going to do something, we do it.
Unless you eat your hat.
You're right.
Gosh,
Well played.
Peter Beckman out there in full force. Like, people have said that like Elon Musk is like the what is it? The Tony Stark. I don't know. I personally think that Peter backed out Tony Stark. Elon Musk in that whole thing. Or
Yeah.
in his presentation, just gosh, so good. Oh, and on the quad fairing half, I think I've maybe instead of being like a hydraulic kind of thing, maybe it's some sort of maybe they're thinking of some sort of like spring-loaded mechanism that they just flick a switch and it just all opens up at the same time. I don't know.
Or what they also do is they might have a mechanism in the actual the pedals of the fairing that'll actually push. That can
Yeah,
actually help to
push it
push the
out.
second stage out. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
But yeah,
when that happens.
it'll be
Yeah, that's a
very
lot of.
interesting.
That is an insane amount of forward thinking there, because basically what they're doing is the first stage is just much like Super Heavy. The whole thing is going to get used. The only thing that's going to be different is basically that the second stage, the first stage is going to be a whole vehicle unto itself.
Yeah, that's crazy. It's very forward thinking.
The actual payload as well as its second stage will be the propulsion. It's will be the actual payload of the first stage. Elon has the tech, but Beck has the charisma. Yes, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, Beck definitely has the charisma. I will totally agree with that. The other thing, oh goodness, that like, I'm still wondering, are the landing legs going to be crush core? Are they going to be able to throttle down that engine just enough to where they don't have to worry about compromising the integrity of it? And
yeah, right.
That going back to the launch site and whatnot. I remember funny about that. A friend of ours, Usui Clear, another rocket VTuber out there. She was saying
She's in
this
Japan, by the
morning,
way.
huh?
I was just saying she's in Japan.
Yeah, she's also in Japan. Well, she is, yeah, but really, really cool person. Check her out. But she was saying, she had one word. She's like SSTO, and I'm like, it's not really a single stage to orbit, because the first stage doesn't actually go to orbit. The second stage is the one that kind of gives it that extra boost, because if that thing was in orbit, it probably would stay in orbit, unfortunately.
Yeah, the whole thing you got to understand is that you have to go from 0 to 27,000 kilometers an hour. And I'm not one of my chatters is saying I'm not an Elon fan personally. I can certainly understand why. He is a bit of an eccentric. There's no denying that. Just look at his son's name. That by itself is indication of how much of an eccentric he is. And
How to get made fun of
but
at school. Or
yeah, no kidding.
no, he goes to okay. KattPhlox, did you ever watch the human cartoon show Rugrats as a kid?
No,
Oh, okay,
I
never
was not
mind.
even a kid
Cause
when Rugrats came out. I
oh
was a kid in
really?
the 1980s.
Oh
I was a
snap, you're
kid
right.
in the
Okay.
70s and an adolescent in the 80s.
It
Like I
reminds
said, I'm
me
older than you,
like
Medic.
his kid remind like I just imagine like his kid would go to a school like I think there was like one episode Chucky Finster went to like a rich kid's school and
Hmm.
like I just imagine one of the kids had like a really weird name I think or something like that and I just imagine him going to like this really rich kid's school or something maybe that's online or in like Oculus Rift or something like that. It's just like, oh,
Uh-huh.
what's your name? My name is such and such because I can't remember Elon Musk's kid's name. And then some kids like what should we call you? Just call me Fred, it's fine.
You think I'm gonna try and pronounce that? You're out of your mind.
Not even the kid knows his own name.
Uh, little guy is too young to really care, but once he starts getting old enough, he will. Maybe
Just get a
we'll
name
see.
change as soon as possible. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
Fred. Or Steve from Minecraft. Gosh, what? I'm sorry, I have Minecraft on the brain right now. Oh, like
Yeah.
Steve.
And
Oh,
one of my chatters just said, I love the concept in this of reusing as much as possible of the rockets, as that it very much agrees with the environment friendly direction we're all fighting toward. Um, will be cool just to see that dream come together. Oh yes, definitely. Because
okay.
one,
Oh, go on.
go ahead. Yeah, I was
Oh,
just thinking to myself the innovation that's basically ties into what I was saying. A lot of forward thinking on that one because that is insane. The way they did it and the way they're looking at doing it. If it works out the way it does, that's going to be that would definitely be a quantum leap from what we're doing right now. I
the
mean,
one thing I will say is I don't think humans will ever be able to reuse the second stage of a of like any kind of launcher because I think it's not cost efficient and also as well it just would add on too much weight. You just expend it, whatnot. Unless
yeah, and
unless they create unless they use the centrifuge system or space elevator or something else like
yeah.
that.
Yeah, you got to bring it back
This,
from orbital velocities, and
yeah.
that and the propulsion for that's got to be insane. Well, actually, it may not necessarily be that insane. I mean, to bring it back to the point where it starts to re-enter the atmosphere. I mean, look at Dragon. It fires its four Dracos at the forward bulkhead, facing the direction of motion for about 16 minutes to get it to the point where it starts to slow down. But still, you have to worry about going through the atmosphere and peak heating because you got all that aerodynamic friction going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot into it. Uh just thinking about something, but it just my mind totally blanked.
Mm-hmm. It looks like in about 20 minutes they will be doing. Looks like they'll be doing a very short burn. It looks like they're probably going to do the 1 second burn that they've done for the ones where they've done circularization burns.
Yep.
They
And then it
and
looked
apparently and what they do is they do 2 different deploys, and that's probably going to be all of about a few minutes on each one between each deployment. That's interesting how they managed to get all these. And as a matter of fact, I think there's going to be another ride share before too long, a dedicated ride share.
most likely.
Yeah. The first one this year was really fun to watch, and unfortunately, I missed the other one. Mainly because our power was down because they were in the process of installing solar here.
I see. I think where I'm at, gosh, yeah, where I live, it would be very nice if we got solar, but I think it's kind of a cost thing for us right at currently. But yeah, it's like it's so sunny where I'm at.
Yeah,
Um,
that would definitely be especially if you happen to have good exposure to the southern and the southern skies the whole way.
oh gosh, yes. Um,
'Cause most of the panels we have are on one part of the house that's got plenty of southern exposure, and then we have some other panels on the western side, so we can catch stuff near the end of the day.
mm-hmm.
And my chatter says, "So are you saying that Starship won't work?" Well, maybe in a technical sense, we don't know yet. We don't know if it's going to technically work. But there's another thing that Puzzle and I were talking about before the stream started, about a bit of a panicked message that Elon Musk wrote to all hands
Oh
on deck, as it
gosh.
were. And it's like, oh my God! If you're
So
to the
so
point, yeah, go ahead.
for those who aren't in the loop about it, in the news recently, Elon Musk, there was a leaked, I don't know if it's a leaked, email going out to everyone in Starship or everyone working on Starship saying, "Hey guys, don't take your Christmas vacations. We have to work on Starship or SpaceX may go bankrupt because Starlink isn't going too well. Starlink's deployment isn't going too well, and we really need everyone all hands on deck to work on this." And everyone's like, uh and then Elon Musk, of course, as always, is on Twitter on doing damage control and being like, "Oh, no, it's good to be paranoid about these things." It's like, uh-huh. I When it comes to Starship and the whole lunar program, I'm like, that's pretty cool that you're gonna try and send that to the moon, but logistically speaking, is it the best idea? Are there probably better ideas from like Dynetics and others? Probably.
Oh boy, that's saying
Oh
something right
boy.
there.
China's I'm sorry to say it, but at this point China's going to like beat us to the moon as far as like putting people on there. I think,
Yeah,
even though, back in this year,
and Artemis is starting to look a lot more.
NASA's going to get beaten by China.
I mean, and
Probably.
at this point,
Ah,
even SLS is starting to look more
bleak.
look more sensible.
Oh, you mean
Although
SLS for
getting us to the moon, yeah.
well, yeah, it's gonna get us to the moon via, or get the Earthlings to the moon. I'm always bad with those pronouns, but getting the Earthlings to the moon, and the U.S. technically won the race decades ago. True, but I think that like SLS is only gonna get Orion there, so they still need some way to land.
Yeah, of
And
course.
logistically speaking, what was it? Like they literally need to launch 10 starships in order to fuel one starship that's in orbit to get to burn it to the moon. That's where it's just gonna sit in orbit for like who knows how long. I don't know. This whole Artemis
Yeah.
program just they
It's ambitious.
it's
Probably ambitious to a fault.
ambitious. It's more complicated. Like whatever happened to the Apollo era that was just like, let's take two spaceships, put them together and just throw them to the moon, and bada bing bada boom, we're there. Someone sits inside the capsule while it orbits the planet or the moon, and then they land there, they do some sciencey stuff. And whatever happened to the idea of sending robots there first, build the base, and then land there? That, eh,
Well, I guess we'll have to see how things go. And the other thing that I was thinking of is I think I'd mentioned this once to you personally. I think this was off street. This was like we were talking last night,
the
talking about how you see the upper half of of what would normally be the SLS vehicle, which has the Orion module, the European service module, and an upper stage. Um, that would probably be a combination between ESA, um, ULA, and whoever makes the Orion capsule, and then below that a Falcon Heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Falcon Heavy could probably do all that without too much issue. The thing is, though, is they will have to burn those things to depletion.
Oh yeah.
Meaning no landing of the common booster cores. You're pretty much gonna have to jettison them and basically say we're done with them.
Yep. You're gonna have to have a it in full expenditure mode, whatever.
Yeah.
The other thing is that, Falcon, they are not like Falcon Heavy, much like Delta 4 is not good. That's the other thing we talked about. Falcon Heavy is not going to be human rated like Delta 4. First off, there's not enough launches in the
Delta 4 won't be the one that's going to be human rated.
I don't
Falcon
think
Heavy is probably far more likely because mainly
yeah,
because of all the flames that crawl up the sides.
yeah,
And I
but
think
also
Stanley
the
covered
other
that as well.
yeah, that's true, but no, I don't think neither will ever get like human rated because for one, I don't think that there's enough Falcon Heavy launches on their itinerary, and SpaceX has already stated that Falcon Heavy is essentially just a holdover until Starship is ready. Starship's
Yeah.
basically going to be the end all be all. Even for Falcon 9 missions, who knows? They probably will keep Falcon 9 going for who knows how long. Can they keep Falcon 9 going for as long as Soyuz has been going? And then the Russians just somehow, the Russians just, steal the whole idea of Falcon 9 and just call it their own. Maybe they call it like Sokol 9. That's Falcon. Yeah, I think that's Falcon in Russian.
Yeah. And
wait, no, Sokol's their space.
Yep,
they
that's
already
the
have
space
Falcon.
we're in the.
They already have. They already have their own.
And the thing is, with if anybody's going to be doing any serious imitation, it's going to be the Chinese. You know it.
Okay, yeah, that's true. They'll call it
and industrial espionage.
Falcon in Chinese.
Who?
They'll call it the Who.
Who?
Yeah, there we go.
Then again, also, there have been pictures out there of basically Chinese were making mock-ups of rockets that are essentially duplicates of the and of course the other one that they're talking about quite a bit, and that is what's it called? New Shepard. And of course, New Shepard's own shape has certainly been the target of much lambastement, derision, or whatever.
Gosh, ay. Blue Origin.
Mainly because, why?
Why? Because Bezos has to be as much of an eccentric as, Elon Musk does, and then to go crying to the government. Oh, why does SpaceX get all the contracts? Blah.
Well, actually, when you get right down to it, there's that, but there's also the matter of, you look at, say, for example, I mean, you have upstarts such as SpaceX and Blue Origin. Then you have the long-term players like Boeing. And that's another thing we talked about last night. It's like they gave, how much was it? Like $6 billion to Boeing to develop the CST-100 Starliner, and they can't even get that to work properly.
Yes, it has some.
Never going to fly at all.
It has some humidity problems, I heard. Being in Florida, where it should have been designed to, be resistant to humidity. I don't know. I'm not. I've never been to No, I have been to Florida.
Yeah. And the
I
other
don't know
thing
much
that
about Florida. It's very humid there, right? Or is it like
that's what
Arizona
I've
where it's
heard.
very dry?
Yeah. It's from my understanding, it is quite humid over there. Not to mention
Oh.
you're practically right against the yeah, and of course it's right against the ocean where there's tons of salt in the air.
Oh,
And of
really?
course
Oh dear,
and a lot of
salt.
that doesn't exactly do favors for um, keeping things vulnerable, reducing the vulnerability to corrosion.
And I thought Boeing would have had enough salt as well that they should know that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Oh my
and the
gosh, that was a horrible joke.
like I probably should have said earlier. What? Oh,
I'm sorry, I had to do the drum roll. I
fair
forgot it
enough.
was connected to Discord. Discord. I'm so sorry.
No
All right,
worries.
are we
That's
doing
okay
the?
though.
Oh, we're not near the deployment at all.
Now I think we're about another. I'd say we're about another 7.5 minutes away. Um, what was I gonna say? The That's one of the things I probably should have said about the CST-100 Skyliner. The vehicle that came from the folks who brought you the 737 Max. That is an unmitigated disaster. That's what happens when you get various people from the vendor getting entirely too cozy with a government agency. Or they do a lot of self-regulation. That's the height of fallacy right there.
Why? Why? Gosh, so much in common.
And
Just so much complacency.
I I can't remember where I saw it, but they were talking about had they moved. I'm not sure if it was the center of gravity or center of lift. That would have reduced the necessity for MCAS, which
Mm-hmm.
is the Achilles heel of the 737 Max family.
Which it's just like, it just goes to show you, Boeing's like, we got to make it bigger. We got to make our econo box of a plane, hold more people, be more efficient, and da 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 da. We need to have people buy our plane, buy our plane, buy our plane.
That's true, but you also have to remember one thing: they're now being used on much longer haul flights. We're
Yeah,
talking, for
that's true.
example, for one
Ooh,
example, which is what I was thinking about, is how are they getting from one of the trips that Southwestern Airlines added, for example, is one
Hawaii.
between Honolulu and Sacramento.
Yeah, Honolulu and Sacramento. Honestly, I want to go on that.
Yeah, from SMF to where I think I'm not sure what Honolulu's sign is. I know SMF is Sacramento International Airport.
But yeah, that
That's another.
actually that brings up a good segue too. It's kind of interesting that oh, what was the policy that that the FAA came up with? It was something having to do with like gosh, I can't remember, but it was like that planes with only what are two engines weren't actually
Oh,
able
that's
to fly.
ETOPS.
Huh?
That's ETOPS.
Oh yeah, ETOPS. That's what it was. Yeah. Like if it wasn't for ETOPS, I think like they total or they like planes like the Boeing 737 would not be able to go on these long haul, flights across
Right.
the ocean and whatnot. But like because that was a thing, or because that became a thing, it now is like okay, or oh, what is it? You don't have, or all these companies can use these twin engine planes that are a lot more efficient, and so they become more in demand. The problem is I think that like Boeing just wanted an excuse to make a new version of the 737, and it's just like, oh hey, yeah, we got this new 737, it's amazing, it's a great plane. It's like you know they just
Yeah,
did
but you
not
also
think it through at all.
yeah, but But you also have to understand, right now there is no viable product that fills the gap between, say, the 737 and the baseline that goes further, that goes further on point-to-point flights, which is the Boeing 787. The
Mm-hmm.
closest they've got out there right now, which unfortunately is not being built anymore, thanks to 9/11, and that's the 757, for example.
Oh yeah. I forgot about
It's
the
the longest haul
757.
single aisle airliner now, and they're not. I'm not sure how many of them they ultimately built, but they share a lot of commonality with, for example, with the 767, which is a wide body airliner. But right now they're trying to get something that will fit that sweet spot because um, right now you're seeing a lot of 747s and A380s being taken out of service
Mm-hmm.
because COVID seemed. I mean, they were already doing that even before COVID happened,
Yeah.
and although COVID was the big catalyst that made it go even faster because not many people were flying. Because the other thing that was taking it out was the whole concept of point to point.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, instead of whereas whereas the 747, the A380, and the ones that came before it, the ones that came after the Boeing 747 and long before the A380, the McDonnell Douglas DC-10 and the Lockheed 1011 L1011 TriStar is point to point. I mean, not point to point, but hub and spoke.
Yeah.
What you do is you get on a smaller plane, whether it's either a regional jet or or another jet like the 727 and 737. Go from your, say, for example, your small podunk airport somewhere, go to a big thing
Mm-hmm.
like LAX, SFO, IAD, or which I think is, I think I want to say it's LaGuardia. No, I'm trying to remember what IAD was, but I think that's in Illinois. Um, but anyway, the big airports like JFK, um, Logan International in Massachusetts, and then from there you board a big Dallas International, and then you go board a bigger plane like the jumbos and super jumbos, and then go to your big places overseas, whether it's in Europe, Asia, or elsewhere, or Australia, and or elsewhere there. Nowadays, you can go point to point,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
where I mean, especially the Boeing 787. That one is probably one of the better designed planes for that particular purpose. And they go from and apparently they can be flown out of much smaller airports than say the 747 ever could,
Oh.
and even the 777. But ultimately, what they really want though is a plane that can go even between the smaller airports, like say SMF, for example.
Yeah.
Um,
Or oh, what was it? I'm trying to think of a small airport. Islip, New York. That was another. I think it's ISP. I can't remember ISP. Or, I
because, for
think the
example,
only one. I think the only one that goes to ISP, and I could be wrong. Don't quote me on this.
I won't. Don't worry.
Is it, oh wait, no, yeah, it's Long Island MacArthur. That's the one. I
Ah,
think it's a smallish airport. I think there's only like one or two. Or no, there's three services there. There's Frontier, Southwest, and American. But yeah, they're like a smallish airport. So I was just thinking
mhm.
that's another one in New York. Or that's one of the smallest, like not regional airports. I would think in New York, like the smallest airport that has oh gosh, what are they called? Carriers. So
Right.
I'm
The
sorry, screwing up my words here.
but the but of course, right now the even Airbus is having I mean
Difficulties.
is a lot closer, is having some difficulties coming up with a middle of the market vehicle, and apparently China is about ready to come into the scene.
China. Huh.
Yep, I forget the name of the airplane maker, but they're about to burst onto the scene with a really big name plane before too long, I suspect.
Hmm. Well, I mean, they do. Some of their companies do have 757s right now. I don't know if they
Hmm.
still have them, but I know of one company. I think it's a Chinese company named SF Airlines that has that uses that's like a cargo liner or something like that, and they have like
Uh-huh.
the 757s. Which actually, that's one interesting thing I like about human uh aircrafts and whatnot. Like the older one, or it seems like when an airline has basically been like, okay, well, or a passenger airliner is is like, okay, this plane's too old for us. They tend to sell them to either they end up in the boneyard in Tucson, Arizona, or they sell them to like some sort of like cargo company and whatnot. And the cargo companies use the older planes. I could be wrong on that, but that's what I've seen before.
Yeah, a lot of the old passenger liners do get boarded, do get the interior of them redone such that not many of the windows are um, they're basically painted over with like a solid piece of opaque plastic or something similar. In fact, one of the things I want to do, there is an aerospace museum near where I am.
Ooh.
They actually have a Boeing 727 that had been apparently in passenger service and was converted into a freighter uh, for for Federal Express, and it's on display there, and so you have a nice up close look at it.
Oh, that's cool. If I
And
ever
then
went, oh, go on.
one of the things I also did also is I went to there was also an air show where they over in the what used to be Mather Air Force Base near what is now the city of Rancho Cordova. They have one of the things I got to see also interior wise was the inside of a UPS Boeing 767 freighter. And what's rather interesting is that one of the things that I can't remember the guy's name, but he was talking about how the differences between the um, straight from the factory freighters versus converted freighters. Straight from the factory freighter 747s basically have a nose like the C5, which can open up,
Mm-hmm.
whereas
Oh.
passenger 747s don't get that conversion. They basically have a side hatch that opens up, and then they put the
Oh,
containers in that way.
yeah, I've seen those. Or I've seen one of those before, where the 737's like the side hatch opens up, but yeah, like on the 747, it's like a nose hatch. What I find interesting about like the 747 as well is that like originally Boeing, they had made it, they had designed it with the idea of, because they were working on their supersonic project.
Mhm.
They worked on it as like a side project, and they had the cabin, or the cockpit above the nose, and it was a giant jumbo jet. So they were like, okay, well, this will just be for cargo and whatnot, because we've got a supersonic plane coming out for airlines and whatnot. And needless to say, that was actually the Boeing 747 turned out to be Boeing's saving grace in that moment. Because
Yeah,
they nearly went bankrupt.
although
Or
yeah,
no,
that's
did they?
true.
Yeah.
Well, no, they didn't. Actually, here's the story on that. Originally, the 747 was entered to compete against other vehicles, including the Lockheed C5, which is the currently the largest airplane in the United States inventory right now. So, and of course, the C51 and Boeing 747 got repurposed into the jumbo jet airliner that we all know and love. As for the Boeing supersonic plane, the Boeing 2707, that one, yeah, that one was pretty bad. But the 747 came very close to bankrupting Boeing. In fact, there was a saying that says, "Will the last person to leave Seattle
Yeah.
please turn off the lights?" You know what would
I
have been
love
really
that.
funny? Tex Johnston going up in that thing, flying it upside down like the 367-80, which would ultimately become the KC 135.
Yeah.
And from then gets adapted to the 707. A lot of people think the KC 135 was based on the 707. It's actually the other way around. Because what happens is that the KC 135 was actually what the 367-80 was ultimately turned into. And the United States Air Force was the launch customer for that particular plane, that particular
Hmm.
airframe, and that's the one that Tex Johnston infamously flew upside down. And there apparently is now a tradition at Boeing where when they get ready to fly a new type, they get almost a ceremonious admonition not to fly the thing upside down.
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious.
Yeah, but
I
basically the adaptations that they made on the 367-80 to make it into the 707 was to widen the fuselage a bit, and I think maybe stretch it, and plus they also shortened it to make it what they call the 720, which a copy of, an example of the type was used in a rather infamous video that shows it was a test of how to of a basic of the formulation of a fuel that wouldn't that would be a lot less
thank you for the hydrant.
detrimental to a crash situation, where basically they come down, the vehicle's coming down by remote control, and then hits one of these big huge, what looks like big huge saw blades sticking up, and which rips open the tanks in the wings, and then of course everything lights off. And whenever they
Mm-hmm.
do that, they learn so much about that.
Oh.
They learn.
Go.
You were going to say?
Oh no, go
Before
on.
we got
I was just going to segue back into the 747 here.
Yeah, we're actually getting pretty close to the
Oh
next
yeah.
lighting of the second stage engine. So what they'll do with that, since they're practically on the other side of the planet right now, what they're going to do with that is raise the perigee of the orbit, which is the lowest point, such that it's pretty much on par with the apogee, such that it's a circular orbit. And apparently, you only need to run that engine for maybe a second or so, because right now, if you look at the velocity, the speed, it's about 26,224 kilometers an hour. It doesn't need all that much thrust to get it up to 27,000. In fact, we should be seeing them come up just shortly.
Yep.
We'll segue as soon as we
Very
do.
soon. Yep. Here we go.
Here we go.
If you're just joining us, a quick recap of today's mission. We had successful liftoff from Cape Canaveral Space Force Station at 6:12 p.m. Eastern
Yeah, they're
Time.
just south of
We then had
Australia.
successful stage separation. Recovered our first
Australia.
after its 9th flight on our drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas, and had a successful second stage MVAC engine burn. We're now waiting on the second relight of the second stage, Merlin vacuum engine, and this burn should last just a few.
Oh yeah, it's between Australia and Antarctica. Jeez.
Yep. And hopefully we'll get some pictures of the actual event. We may not.
Oh, there it is. Seco cutoff.
MVAC ignition.
There it goes.
Seco 2.
So we just saw.
They just had SES2 and Seco 2.
The Merlin vacuum engine on the second stage ignited for a few seconds. Then we also got confirmation of a good second engine cutoff.
As it turns out, had this other vehicle gone off, I think we probably would have missed it, which is okay. I'm glad they actually scrubbed it to the next day.
Mm-hmm.
With the Earth in the background. What the second stage does at deployment is actually largely
Wait, what happened with it? I'm sorry, I blanked for a moment.
They had to scrub the Soyuz launch until tomorrow.
Okay. Was there a reason given, or?
I don't know specifically. I'd have to go. They're not saying on their Twitter page. And there's a nice picture of the payload.
Will actually spin at a rate at about 3 degrees per second. This creates a small.
Yeah, basically they're gonna. What they're saying is they're gonna be making the. They're gonna put it into a controlled tumble, such that when it lets go, it's kind of like letting go of a yo-yo from the string if you're spinning it above your head while holding the string. And when
Mm-hmm.
you let it go at the right point, it'll go at a straight line.
on board today, and they will be deploying about 3 minutes apart from one another.
So going back to the whole thing about like the KC-135 and the Boeing 747, I think like I've seen the ideas of like using the 747 as like a drone launcher, and I think that would be crazy. Also really cool. Have you seen that before, Kat?
Which one?
The concept idea of using the 747 as a drone carrier, where you
Oh,
have it
yeah.
flying and then it just deploys drones.
The one that was really interesting to me is using it as a cruise missile carrier.
Hmm.
I mean, there's already like the B-52 Stratofortress being used for something like that, but because of the sheer volume of the interior of the Boeing 747, really makes it ideal to carry stuff like that, or even possibly the Airbus A380, which has even more volume because it has two full decks as opposed to one full deck and a partial upper deck.
I
In the case of
I
Boeing's, in the case of the 747, especially the Dash 400 and the Dash 8 variants.
I'm just thinking like there's got to be at least one like commander in the Air Force who just sits at a desk all day and just wonders, "Ooh, this commercial airliner, what can we do with it? What concepts can we come up with it?" Like they literally turned the Boeing 737, well that was the Navy, but the Navy
The
turned
Poseidon.
the 737 into the Poseidon, which is literally it's just a 737 with,
Yep.
anti-torpedo or sonar buoys and possibly a torpedo.
And there's also a variant of the 737 that Australians operate, which is essentially an AEW, airborne early warning system that works much
Mm-hmm.
like the AWACS E3 Sentry, which is in fact directly from the Boeing 707. We're about to have a deployment.
Oh, here we go. Boop.
If we could see that.
Uh,
12 payload deploy confirmed.
So we did get audio confirmation. I am looking on screen right now to see if we can see it visually. Again, the two BlackSky satellites are actually positioned at the top of the stack, and so the objects, if you
We
will,
may
that
not
are
get to
closest
see
to the
those.
screen, those are the Starlink satellites. So we didn't quite get the visual confirmation of the first satellite. Maybe we'll get the second one. But again, we
mm.
are about 3 minutes away from the second deployment of the BlackSky satellite.
So there's the BlackSky satellite. Were there any other satellites that were hitching a ride along with this one?
No, I believe it was just the
One interesting thing to note as we continue to get this view here is in
I
space,
think it was
we are
just
deploying
the
vertical
two
speed
black sky satellites, as and then just like,
we are actually traveling at 26,000
did I put the number? I think it
kilometers
was
per hour.
48 Starlink satellites.
This is really to
Yeah.
this is close to
So
orbital velocity.
yeah, that was it.
At those
Yeah,
speeds, you can
48
end-to-end
Starlinks and then the two black skies.
So even though it doesn't look like we're moving very, very quickly, the second stage and the satellites are indeed zipping around the Earth.
Wee.
Yeah, relative velocity when you see the Starlinks when Starlink satellites go away, they they look like they're going very slowly away, but in reality, all of them are going at better part of Mach 25.
Yee.
So right now, the second stage is actually
Pardon me, my eye
just
is
a little
itching
bit
a little bit.
southeast
It's all
of
good.
Australia. It's continuing to head east, and we are about a minute away from the second
And
BlackSky satellite
did you actually
deployment.
watch
For those that are just
the
joining,
stream
we do
where
have the second deployment of our first BlackSky satellite. This is the fourth
I think it was
by-trip mission of
NS-18
2021
where William
for
Shatner went
us
up
here at SpaceX,
on
and the
New Shepard?
27th mission overall.
I don't think I did. I heard about it though.
Yeah, he apparently was genuinely affected um, by the overlook effect, which is an effect where when people look at the Earth from a considerable distance, in this case from just past the Kármán line, realizing just how delicate the Earth is, and as I quoted Michael Collins as saying, there are no borders there. You just see the entire world as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Especially considering he saw it from about 250,000 miles away as he was orbiting the moon.
Yeah.
And it was an extremely emotional experience for Shatner. There's going to be
Mm-hmm.
another deployment.
Honestly, though, to play devil's advocate, Shatner is already a very dramatic person.
Global 13 payload
But
delivered.
yeah, gosh,
No
it would be
disagreement there. They
amazing to
just had
just.
another.
And that is great news. We've
Yep, there we
Yep,
go.
they just had another deployment.
two BlackSky satellites on behalf of our customer spaceflight. We are
Woo.
wishing them bon voyage to the two BlackSky sats, and it was our pleasure to give you a lift today. With that, we are awaiting the deployment of our 48 Starlink satellites, which is scheduled to occur about 20 minutes from now. At the time of the deployment, we won't actually have ground station coverage, but we'll return just before we require signal to the South Texas station about T plus 1 hour and 32 minutes to get confirmation of that deployment. We will see you back here in just a few moments.
Okay, so meanwhile, but yeah, I know a lot of the other airliners have certainly gotten a lot of adaptations, like the the DC-10 became the KC-10 extender, which,
Mm-hmm.
like KC-135, is a tanker plane, and then they also happen to have the ability to carry cargo. The main difference between the KC-135 and the KC-10 is the KC-135. I've been inside both. Is that the inner parts of the fuselage? You'll see seats on both sides of the
Mm-hmm.
vehicle on the KC-135. The KC-10, all the passenger seats are at the front. Um, of the main fuselage, and just behind it is where they can carry cargo.
Yeah.
And of course they have a boom that's in the aft of the plane. And the main difference is that they have a regular seat that they do it from, instead of doing it from instead of flying the boom from in a in a in a prone position where you're on your stomach, and with controls to fly the boom on the KC-135. And now there's a new version of there's a new tanker out there. Speaking of planes based on airliners, which is the KC-46 Pegasus, and that is based on the Boeing 767.
Mm-hmm.
They were looking at the KC-45, which was the Airbus based on the Airbus A330, called the A330 MSTT, I think it was, or
Yeah.
MFTT. I forget the exact letters it was, but anyway, that's in use in Europe. And apparently, Boeing got all upset about that, and they renegotiated that deal, and of course, Boeing got what they wanted.
Yep. Typical Boeing.
And then, of course, there are several different VIP planes, as well as, of course, the Airborne Command Post. It's the E4, that's the Airborne Command Post, and then the VC-25, which, of course, are the planes that act as what could be considered Air Force One, though any Air Force vehicle which the president aboard takes on the call sign Air Force One
Mm-hmm.
whenever the president is aboard.
Yeah.
And if it's another branch of the military, like for example, if it's an Army helicopter or a Marine helicopter slash
It becomes Marine One.
right, and there's of course the one helicopter that we know so much, which is that one that Trump always liked to go in front of when with the engines running, to sort of muffle well, we're not going to get too much into
No, no, no,
politics.
no, 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 no. Yeah, no, nope, 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 nope. We are getting political. We are not going to get political here. Nope, 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 nope.
And
I studied human politics, and whenever it starts to get up, like, it's not a good idea. No. Goodness, no.
and when a president comes aboard a plane, say for example to an aircraft carrier, any plane he's flying aboard, whether as a pilot or as a passenger, that would be Navy One.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, Air Force One, if he comes aboard, and of course, there's also Coast Guard. The Coast Guard, he could be on a C-130. That would be Coast Guard One. If he's aboard a commercial airliner like Richard Nixon was during his term, there's a name for that.
What?
Take a wild
What?
guess.
Commercial one?
Yep.
Why
He flew
would
aboard a
why would an American president ever get onto a, that sounds like a dangerous idea. Like,
It could be, but here's the thing: if he flies aboard one of those, like Nixon did, basically he did that to prove just how safe they are. When he gets
oh,
aboard
so it
that
was a
vehicle,
publicity stunt. Gotcha.
in this particular case, yes, but in case he ever is on a civilian airplane, whether it's an airliner or a vehicle that is or a plane that's involved in civil aviation, that vehicle becomes Executive One.
Executive one. Okay. Like,
And if it's the vice president, it's Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Executive 2.
okay. But well, what? Yeah, I'm not going to get into the. Okay. But yeah, that's dangerous to go on some, like, even a battleship was dangerous for FDR. Like, even when FDR was on a battleship of all things, his life was in danger one time. Have you ever heard of this? Have you ever heard of the story of the William D. Porter and how they nearly sunk the ship they nearly struck the ship that was on the no, they nearly torpedoed the ship that the president was on. Have you ever heard this?
No, I'd have to go.
Okay.
I'd have to go
All
read
right.
on that. I'm a bit of a history buff.
Okay, so it's World War II, and the FDR needs to go across the sea to the Tehran conference to meet with Churchill and gosh, I wanted to say Vladimir Putin. No, Stalin. Yeah, that guy, that jerk. And so
Yeah.
he gets onto the USS Iowa. And, they've got a whole fleet and whatnot, and including one destroyer called the William D. Porter. And the William D. Porter had a very bad stroke of luck. When they first came out of dock came out of harbor with the Iowa, the William D. Porter was pulling up its anchor and actually ripped the anchor, like it got caught into another ship, and it
Oof.
ripped the anchor off of the other ship.
Ouch.
And what else did it do? One of its boilers broke on the way. On top of that, during the Navy wanted to flex and show FDR what they were all about. So they had like a training exercise where, they had AA guns and whatnot shooting at the balloons, and then they were going to have a live fire test, or not a live fire test, but a training exercise where the destroyers were going to try and target the Iowa as their target, or to show them, oh hey, look at what our torpedo men can do, on the destroyers. Well, the William D. Porter shoots its torpedoes, and they weren't supposed to hit the water. They do fire 1, fire 2, fire 3, fire 4, and on the fourth one, the torpedo goes whoosh into the water, straight towards the Iowa. And so
Whoops.
they the William D. Porter signals to the Iowa, hey, we screwed up. And apparently, you know, they were using flag signals because they couldn't use, it was strict radio silence. And
Oh, I see.
again, this isn't the whole story. There's a lot of channels that tell the story. But that they thought that they were saying something else, like look to the other side of the ship, or we are reversing. And the Iowa's like, what's going on? That is until a crewman on the Iowa literally signals to the tells, or calls out torpedo in the water, evasive maneuvers. Just as the William D. Porter is getting on radio and being like, hey, sorry to break radio silence, but we done goofed. And so the Iowa takes evasive maneuvers. And what does Franklin Delano Roosevelt do? He tells his supervisors to push him closer to the edge of the Iowa so he could see the live torpedo.
Okay.
This man doesn't give two craps. So yeah,
Honey Badger doesn't care.
yeah, exactly. So the William D. Porter goes back home early, and as the legend goes, no one knows the true story apparently, but they were the whole crew was taken off the ship and like questioned and all this other stuff because you shot a torpedo at the president of the United States. Also the William D. Porter was the only ship probably I'll tell another small story about the William D. Porter after this, because the legend of the stupid ship. What they do is, the only person charged on the ship was the torpedo man, Dawson. And apparently, FDR actually got his sentence reduced, saying that, it wasn't it was an accident. And he's a crap shot anyways. So, and the crew's a crap shot because they missed, a very slow target anyways and whatnot. So, good guy,
Yeah.
FDR. Mashichu just reminded me though, the fate of the William D. Porter was not to make it through the war though. After their mishaps in the Atlantic, they were sent to the Pacific Fleet, in which apparently a drunk sailor on the Porter, when they were stationed in Alaska, literally blew up the garden of the base commander. This is all This is all like legend apparently, because there's no like actual sources about this. But yeah, he blew up the base commander's garden. And then they were sent out to the Pacific Ocean, where they actually at the time the kamikazes were getting really bad. And so they had just shot they were in the middle of shooting AA guns every which way at planes, and then suddenly down comes a kamikaze, and they shoot it down just before it hits the William D. Porter, and it goes perfectly underneath the ship and explodes underneath the ship itself, buckling it. And the crew tried to save it, but they weren't able to save it, and no crew were lost at all on the William D. Porter when it sunk. That's insane, especially for a destroyer. In my opinion, looking at the U.S. Navy and navies in general, destroyer crews are just insane. To get on a small boat like that, and it's just funny because I'm pretty sure that like even if the torpedo hit the Iowa, it would only leave a dent, because at the time the Mark 14 torpedoes were absolute garbage in the U.S. Navy. But yeah, gosh, the William D. Porter was a crazy ship. Oh, don't you love it when there's like Navy military history in your SpaceX?
Oh yeah.
Things. I'm sorry, but yeah, I just wanted to go on about that. Oh, that was it's a fun little story. I would
Yeah.
say that we need to rescue the ship because because given its streak, it's probably for the better. Mashi Chu is saying we should recover or we should recover the William D. Porter. I'm like, there's a lot of ships that litter the Pacific Ocean, not just American
yeah,
ships, but
definitely.
yeah, trying to find them all. Ugh. Although, gosh, there was a ship that was doing that for a while. I don't know if they're still doing it, but there was some like rich philanthropist out there who's finding ships like the USS Lexington out in Coral Sea and whatnot. Crazy stuff.
Hmm.
Especially with how deep those ships go. It's like trying to find a grain of sand in a haystack.
Hmm.
Oh,
So I'm gonna go switch back to. I was just looking at a few other things before. Yeah, they're still about. I'd say they're about 10 minutes away from 8 to 10 minutes from deployment of the 48, the prime load of that vehicle, which of course is the 48 Starlink satellites.
they did say that they were probably gonna close it out, right?
We'll see.
Or I mean, not close it, or not, or whoa, what was I thinking?
They weren't going to get
They
any. I
they
guess
said that they weren't actually gonna get like video. They weren't gonna have video on it. They were just gonna get confirmation, right? Did we
I
want to
believe so.
just
See.
close it out, or did we want to wait the 10 minutes?
Let's see what they have to say, and then because they'll still probably talk about it. They'll probably announce the deployment of that, because they may not necessarily have the bandwidth in order to get video, but they'll have enough bandwidth to say they've actually been able to confirm deployment of the stack of satellites.
Ah, yeah, that's true.
So as soon as they actually do that, they'll probably close out the stream, and of course we'll go ahead and head on out, and that's another thing I was going to do, is see whom we can raid afterward.
Yes.
So I'm going to do that right now. Oh, I know whom we can raid. Actually, yeah, I think I know exactly whom we're going to raid, assuming they're still up. But I dare not open the tab because because if I do that while we're still on here, the audio will actually leak through, because it has to go through. Because when I'm doing the feed, I'm doing it from the same. If I look at this one's going to be in the same Chrome that I'm using to feed both of our feeds with.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. We'll do that as soon as I change scenes to the main chatting scene for you and me. Hello there. How you doing?
Oh,
We're doing
hello.
fine. Thank you so. Speeder's side pull. Saying hi on my channel. We have an incoming raid. Hey, Judex, how you doing? I like that. Lazy Boy T, how you doing? And what I have for those people who just came in and don't know who I am, first of all, my name is KattPhlox. I am a nerdy trans variety VTuber, cat girl VTuber who, in this case, right now is streaming some space flight. Hopefully going to do some more tomorrow with the launch of a Soyuz craft from Kourou, French Guiana by Arianespace, which is going to take 2 navigation satellites to orbit. Today is a Starlink launch. They're going to be taking about 48 internet access satellites to orbit. They just deployed 2, I guess they're Earth imaging satellites just a few minutes ago. And basically what we're going to be doing is, let me do a real quick shout out for Judex. Hang on just a second.
Oi.
So you were playing Inscription. What kind of game is that? Is this a new spaceship from Tesla again? Sorta, maybe. Well, it's another Elon Musk company. You have Tesla, you have Tesla, you have SpaceX, you have the Boring Company. Boring as in boring a hole, not as in not exciting. And of course the other one, I can't remember the name of the solar company that he did.
Whoops.
But anyway,
sorry, on my end, I accidentally did something.
But anyway, that the raid thing that I do is we see the Proton rocket that had its accelerometers installed upside down in the which way is up mode. They said, "Oh, by the way, our rocket's flying 180 degrees off course."
Which one was that again?
Yeah, it was a GLONASS mission. They had
the GLONASS mission, yes,
on there.
Where Russia's like, where Russia straight up said, we don't believe in launch abort. What is that?
We don't believe in FTSs. Right. Especially when it contains a whole bunch of hypergolic propellants. And basically it does as what Watson Amelia would call a ground pound maneuver.
It rapidly it went through RUD on the ground.
It says,
most of its RUD was on the ground.
Hit the deck.
Mm-hmm.
Hit the deck. Somebody's coming in and is about to run into number of viewer pieces.
Yeah.
I had loads of fun coming up with all that stuff. That was loads of fun.
In Russia, we buy 50 tons of fuel. We use 50 tons of fuel or die trying. Oh gosh, Russia never change.
Space is messed up. Messed up. Yep.
Okay, so actually, speaking of which, and I promise this won't go too much into geopolitical. Hopefully, what have you heard this whole claim by Russia that they can take out like all the GPS satellite or like all the GPS satellites out there that America has and cripple NATO, or do you think it's just them just being like, oh yeah, we could totally do that, and just they're just
I wouldn't put it past them at this point. Put it that way.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I kind of hope that the U.S. has MDA working on it. This is highly probable. Yeah, true. But who knows? I still think
up on let's see if they're going to actually announce the deployment.
Yep.
So what's going to happen now is that the vehicle right now is in a controlled 3 degree per second end over end tumble, at which point when they announce the deployment, they're basically letting go of the stack of satellites at a particular point during that tumble where it just pulls away like you're letting go of a yo-yo. Speaking of boring, the first time I heard Elon says, we're going to sell boring flamethrower. In my mind, it's just like, how boring is this? It turns out boring is a company name. Yep.
Yeah. They also have the boring flamethrowers. How to fundraise for your company. Sell flamethrowers. Or not, no, they're not a flamethrowers. Gosh.
And so meanwhile, we're seeing stage 1 over on the horizon of our simulated world. That actually was a successful touchdown for the 9th time of that particular booster on the drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas. I'm wondering if they're going to go ahead and actually come back and say, okay, we've been able to confirm that the deployment did successfully take place. I think when they get close enough to Texas where they can have a downlink, they'll go ahead and actually confirm it. Yeah, and somehow the flamethrower design is not boring at all. Okay. It is exciting, huh? or at least it does not produce holes in the ground, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, the other recent SpaceX launch happened on this side of the country, which was the DART launch, which also happens to have several different technologies that are in the process of being trialed, which includes the next propulsion system that stands for NASA's evolved Xenon thruster, which is an ion thruster, as well as a nav system and a low-cost, high-gain antenna. That is on its way to that's on its way to the Didymus system to impact the smaller asteroid that's orbiting around it called
Mm-hmm.
Dimorphos, to see if it can alter its orbit, hopefully as a proof of concept
Oh.
of being able to change the orbit.
Hold on a moment, Kat. We just got confirmation of the deployment of the satellites.
Here we go.
Joining us, we had a successful liftoff at 6:12 p.m. Eastern Time. We saw a successful stage separation. We saw second engine start and second engine cut off successfully twice on the second stage. We were also able to land our first stage booster for the 9th time on our drone ship.
Nice.
Fall of Gravitas, and then about 20 minutes ago, we successfully deployed the 2 BlackSky satellites. We were expecting the Starlink satellites to deploy around the T+1
There they go.
and 29-minute mark. And at that time, we didn't have ground station coverage. So right now, we should be coming in the range of South Texas ground station and getting confirmation of the Starlink satellites deploying. So I am hearing that we did indeed get confirmation of those 48 Starlink satellites deploying. That is the 34th launch of Starlink to date, which means that we've launched nearly 2,000 Starlink satellites thus far. With that said, all of the payloads on today's mission have reached their intended orbit.
And there they go.
We'll be bringing our
Nice.
to an end. Would like to thank
Goodbye, little satellites.
today's mission and to our customer spaceflight. And of course, thank you to all of our viewers.
Kat, did you see Discord?
Using our service at this time.
No, I haven't. Give me just a second.
Okay. It's all good.
Starlink.com. Thank you again for watching, and we will see you next time.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to chatting with Collabs for just a sec here.
Okay.
Okay. He's going to drop out and address something on his side.
Then I'll probably come back. Give me like 2 minutes or so, and then I'll probably be right back. Sound good?
Sounds good to me. Go right
All
ahead.
right. 1 second. Oh, whoops. All right, guys. So there's been a small little schedule update. At 6 p.m. PST, I believe 9 p.m. EST, I am going to be in a Among Us collab. Let's go. It's going to be with a bunch of other VTubers, including my VTuber sister, Colonel Chiru. Yeah. So what I'm probably going to be doing is pushing the, let's see here. Pushing forward the Minecraft collab by an hour or two. I'm not sure yet. In order to just play a little bit of Minecraft before the Among Us stream. That, or probably do one afterwards. Not confirmed yet on that, but probably, an hour before. So yeah. Anyways, let's get back with Kat here real quick. I just wanted to give that small little schedule update. This will also be my first Among Us collab, so you guys get to see how crap I am at being the sussy baka.
Hello.
Okay, we're back.
Stand by,
All
please.
right. Alrighty.
I'm gonna be there I'm gonna be another minute or two, so stand by.
All right, sounds good.
Actually, hang on a sec. I'm gonna switch back to my other scene here. Okay, we are back. Sorry about that. I had to, like I said, I had to pick up a phone call, and you are back with me as well.
Yep.
On my side
All
of
right,
things.
that worked out actually really good.
Okay, so in the meantime, um, for those of you who stuck with us the whole time, and thank you so much for the raid, Judex. I really appreciate that. And for those of you who joined us on both sides of the collab, thank you so much for joining us. I had a lot of fun doing this. And we've been doing a lot more of these of late, which has been really, really fun. I've really been
Oh
enjoying
yeah.
this, and I hope you guys are enjoying it too. And I certainly hope you've been enjoying it.
Mm-hmm. Who do
Yeah.
you have
So
as raid targets? I have a couple of people. Do you have anyone?
yeah, I have one. Let me see if he is up at present. I can actually go ahead and open the tab now because the stream is over, and B, the source is not even on this is not even up right now. Let me see if he is up. Hang on a sec here. Ah, yes, he is. In fact,
Oh, okay.
I'm going to open up his tab right now, and I'm going to unmute the as soon as it starts playing. I'm going to unmute it so I can hear what's happening.
Alrighty.
There he is. I want to raid Jeff McBiceps because he's a really nice guy. He's
Yes.
Yeah, he actually was one of my I was he and I actually follow each other on Twitter, and he's one of my earliest. I was one of his earliest follows, apparently, which is cool. And I want to give him some love and support from the Floxworthy Workshop and Labs. So let me
Alrighty.
go ahead and get some raid text going for everybody to use. Let me go ahead and grab that real quick myself. All right, we are setting up here. And I'm going to go ahead and get back to OBS, and then we will go ahead and you're going to be joining me, or you're going to be heading your own way?
Huh? Yeah, I'll be joining you on the raid. Yeah, totally. Let's do a double raid. Let's do it.
Okay, so we're both going to be rating Jeff McBiceps. Again, thank you so much for joining us.
Yee.
Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you soon. And I will probably see some of you guys back here tomorrow. Please keep an eye on my Twitter, and we'll have more before too long. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you guys enjoyed us and our banter
Yes,
throughout
thank
the
you.
show.
Yeah.
And have a great one, and we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.